Hey guys, this is Luke here, your residential Asian wine aunt, and welcome to the first episode of My Kind of Food. This is future Luke speaking. Let's just pretend that we lost the audio and totally didn't mess up the explanation, but you are watching good food. The show all about the people. It's all about us, all about our loved ones, and all about you absolutely gorgeous individuals. Each episode we cook for someone a little bit different. They give us a couple of guidelines that could be really specific or really broad, and me, someone with zero culinary training, tries their absolute best. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and we're gonna let past Luke take it away. At the time of this recording, we are filming this right before Halloween. Today, I'm going to be cooking for my sister. She's back for reading week this week, so I thought what perfect thing to do besides bake her a pumpkin cake. So why are we cooking with pumpkins? Obviously, it's October, November, it's kind of the season. So to give the cake a little bit of a spin, we're actually going to be incorporating a butternut squash whipped cream kind of frosting. We're gonna make it a 2-layer cake. We're gonna add some pecans and dark chocolate as well. So I'm just gonna give you a quick overview of the ingredients first, and then we're gonna take you through the process of cooking it. And at the end, you're gonna see my sister, and she's going to be tasting it. And hopefully she's not going to think it's super gross. So let's get to that. So for the wet ingredients and for the cake itself, we're going to be working with 1 3/4 cup of pumpkin. We're gonna be adding 4 eggs and 3 and 4 cups of vegetable oil, canola, olive oil, whatever you wanna use. For the dry ingredients, we're gonna be using 1 cup of sugar, 1 cup of brown sugar. We're going to add 2 teaspoons of baking soda or baking powder, 2 cups of all-purpose flour, bread flour, or cake flour. I don't think it really makes a huge difference. You can call me out in the comments, doesn't matter, we can argue. And 1.5 teaspoons of salt, 1/2 teaspoons of ground ginger, 1/2 teaspoons of ground cinnamon. And if you would like, I would also recommend adding up to 1.5 teaspoons of nutmeg, clove, or even Chinese spice. I'm honestly not a huge fan of nutmeg or clove, so I'm going to exclude it for this purpose. But that's the ingredients for the cake. Now for the whipped topping, what you want to use is, for the butternut squash, you're going to use 1/4 of a large butternut squash. That's going to be around 2 cups diced. With that, you want to just add enough butter and brown sugar to kind of coat your pan. As you'll see later in the cooking, it's going to make a little bit more sense. And for the whipped topping, all you're going to need is a canister of whipping cream, around 2 cups of heavy whipping cream. You want to add around 2 teaspoons of honey, maple syrup, or you can also substitute with confectioner's sugar, and also 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Okay guys, so the first part of making our pumpkin cake today is going to be actually creating the topping for our whipped cream filling. What we are going to do is we're going to roast some butternut squash with butter and brown sugar, because nothing bad happens when you roast things with butter and brown sugar, and then mix it in with whipped cream. Honestly, I'm not 100% sure how much butternut squash to use, so I kind of prepared 1/4 of a large one, and any excess you can kind of just like snack on. Just lining the bottom of a tray with the butternut squash. The thing I like to do is I kind of just dump everything on, and then I'll shake the pan a little bit to kind of distribute everything evenly. Next, I would say prepare around 1/4 cups of butter. Cube it into little chunks like this. I would just distribute it among the chunks evenly, just very, very nice like this. The whole idea is these are going to caramelize basically in the butter and with the sugar once it actually melts. Next, we're gonna grab some brown sugar. Did not know where that was for a second. And this we're just gonna sprinkle evenly throughout the entire pan, unlike the butter where it's just kind of in chunks. Also, apparently there's no point of actually keeping brown sugar around the house. Apparently you can just mix like white sugar and molasses, but I'm Chinese, so we don't have molasses in my house. Okay, so we prepared the butter and the brown sugar. Next, we're just going to do a little sprinkling of cinnamon on as well. And that's it. It's really that easy. By the way, this is something that's really, really delicious that you can make for Thanksgiving as well. Just as a side dish, I would up the size of the butternut squash and just cook it for a little bit longer. Now that we have this actually prepared, we're going to bring this over to the oven. I've turned it on around 300, and we're gonna cook it for around 45 minutes. So you'll see what that looks like in a second. We have the butternut squash in the oven going right now, and we're going to prepare the batter itself. For those of you who have baked at least one time in your life, you probably know the procedure. We're going to mix our ingredients wet and dry separately. It doesn't really matter which one you prepare first, but prepare both and then start the mixing. So in this case, we're gonna start with the dry and then go with the wet. That starts with 2 cups of just all-purpose flour. You can use cake flour, bread flour. I honestly don't think it matters too much. As I said in the intro of this video, absolute beginner baker. So using 1 cup of regular white granulated sugar. I'm going to do another cup of brown sugar. When you do these, you have to pack it in so that it actually is the appropriate measurement. And we're going to go in with some spices as well. So I'm using cinnamon, nutmeg, salt, and baking powder. I know baking powder is not a spice, but If for those of you who like nutmeg and clove, I would recommend using that. You can actually also use Chinese spice powder. So that's gonna go in. And that's literally it for the dry ingredients. From there, all you wanna do is just get your whisk, mix everything together, and you're ready to go. So we're gonna set this to the side and we're gonna work on our wet ingredients. So now we are going to mix the wet ingredients together. This is extremely simple. 4 large eggs, crack those up. Zero shells. Hire me, Gordon Ramsay. Okay, so you wanna beat your eggs together really quick. I'm just gonna give it a very light mixing for now because we're gonna add the pumpkin puree and oil as well. So that's gonna require additional mix. Okay, so next we're gonna go in with the oil and the pumpkin mixture, grabbing a spoon because we are well prepared for this shoot, obviously. Complete professionals out here. So we're gonna mix in the 1 3/4 cup of pumpkin puree and 3/4 cup of oil as well. I'm gonna give that mixture a nice little mix. So when you're mixing, it's actually not good to go in circles like this. You're not really achieving anything. You want to kind of bring the whisk up and then down. So something a little bit closer to this. Easier if you tilt your bowl a little bit and then you can kind of like go in. So once your mixture looks a little bit more like this, see how it's like a cohesive liquid without any separation, you're good to go. So at this point, we have our wet mixture here. We have the dry mixture, and I think you guys can tell what comes next. So we're gonna mix everything together and then add in the pecans as well as the chocolate. So let's do that. So dry ingredients, wet ingredients are prepped. We have our pecans and chocolate that's all chopped up. Going to start by putting in all the dry ingredients into our very large mixing bowl, followed by our wet ingredients. I typically like to get these two mixtures kind of started first before folding in the rest of the nuts. Now, kind of counterintuitive, but unlike the rest of baking, you actually want to mix this as little as possible here. We don't want it to get too homogeneous because it's going to kind of like close off air bubbles and it's gonna make the cake a little bit too dense once we bake it. Now we're gonna fold in our 1 cup of pecan and around 3/4 cup of dark chocolate. If you are a psychopath, feel free to use milk chocolate, but desserts should not just be completely sweet. So we have our mixture very nicely. All that's left to do is transfer things to the bowl and get things baking. Right now, all you want to do is you want to get your baking tray of choice. Since we are making a double layered cake, we're going with one of these stainless steel. I would say it's around 12 inches in total. I think actually, sorry, 10 inches. And yeah, this batter should be able to make actually 2 cakes. Because this pan actually comes off on the side, I would usually use parchment paper, but in this case, I'm actually just going to go in with like a little layer of butter. Now, if you have a very extremely comically large bowl like this, it's probably not as easy to pour in the batter. So I know for a lot of you, this is your first episode watching this. So me saying like, I'm not really that great at baking doesn't really mean much. But I swear I am better at cooking than this. Oh, I actually lied. This is perfect actually for one cake. Okay. I dropped the pan a couple times because right now, as you pour it, it's going to form air bubbles. Dropping it kind of just eliminates some of that so it cooks all evenly. The batter's ready. We're going to throw things into the oven. It's set to 350. We're going to be cooking it for 55 minutes. You can check it at 55 minutes with a chopstick, a toothpick, whatever. If the batter is not sticking on it, it's ready. Take it out and let it rest. So we're gonna throw it into the oven. So, to not waste your time, I whipped together around 2 cups of heavy whipping cream. What we're first gonna be doing is we're going to season the whipped cream lightly. Usually you would do this with confectioner sugar or maybe some sort of syrup, but because we don't have that, we're going to be using some honey. I'm just gonna pre-pour it, but for you guys, if you want some precise measurements, I'd say around 1 to 2 teaspoons. Taste it for flavor and then kind of readjust. So just gonna go in with the honey. And with that, we're also going to do a splash of vanilla extract. Now, when you beat your whipped cream, you with the whisk, yes, that's what it's called. When you beat the whipped cream with the whisk, you're adding a lot of air to it. But when you're folding in these type of ingredients, what you want to do is not add too much air. You're kind of gonna mess up the consistency. Now, our cake is going to be 2 layers with a layer of frosting in the middle. Once we have the general topping mixture complete, we're going to separate this into 2 different bowls. One of the bowls is going to have the butternut squash, which we prepared for the center of the filling. So here's what the butternut squash looks like. Make sure to just include all the juices at the bottom as well. That stuff's all delicious. So in terms of proportions, with the 2 bowls, you want to put around 1/4 of the mixture into the butternut squash and then maintain the rest to set along to the side. We're also going to top the cake off with some additional things, which are going to be pecans and dusted chocolate. So a lot of people will go to the store to buy the dusted chocolate, but let me show you really quick what you can do instead. If you have just a nice chocolate bar and also one of these, a vegetable peeler, all you have to do is just run your vegetable peeler along the side of the chocolate and you will get some shavings. You want around 1/2 cup of each, but according to my sister, you should use more than 1/2 cup because decorating the side of the cake takes a lot more material. So just have some as snacks afterwards. But yes, all that's left to do now is assemble the cake. So we're gonna show you how to do that. As you can see, we've cut the cake in half. We have our middle whipped mixture that we're going to add onto the cake. We did this to the best of our abilities. Honestly, you might want to increase your whipped cream a little bit depending how big your cake is, but I'm satisfied with this. I'm gonna throw on the top, and now we want to elevate the cake to frost the rest of it. In terms of the frosting, I'm gonna go in with around 1/3 of the remainder mixture at the top. I would highly, highly, highly recommend resting it for 30 minutes. Honestly, this cake is still a little bit warm right now, and it is at the risk of melting off the whipped cream. This is what this channel is about, you know, learning as we go. So that after that extremely struggled frosting session, we're going to just top things with our little mixture. I'm gonna throw this in the fridge, let it harden a little bit, and then we're gonna do a taste test. See you in a bit. Okay guys, all the hard work is done, so it's time to taste things. Apparently I have trash taste in sweet things, so to help us give a judgment, I have brought my lovely sister along over here.
Hello, I'm Esther, Luke's sister.
Do you wanna plug something? Like
Plug what?
Okay, cool. Anyway, so we're gonna test this cake now. As you can see on screen, we have this slice already pre-cut. Have a taste and let me know how you think. I mean, you were roasting it a little bit earlier, so I don't know. So honestly, no, first of all, like this cake is a little bit more dense than some of the previous cakes I've made. Not sure what that means, like in terms of the flavor though. Pretty moist, but though it could just be the melting whipped cream.
It is a little underbaked.
Okay.
But it's actually, the flavor is really good.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are you getting out? Like, are you getting some pumpkin notes? I know you're talking some trash.
It's pretty subtle.
Okay.
In general. So it's like not overly sweet, which is really good. But I actually don't taste the pumpkin that much.
At all, eh? Okay, so I'm gonna try a piece of the butternut squash specifically with the cake. I do actually think the butternut squash is a good inclusion. I don't know about you, have you tasted it?
I think the nuts were really good. I'm really glad you actually put them in. I thought there'd be too much. But like having a little bit of the crunchy texture, because your cake is really moist, is really good.
Okay. So let us know if you want to see my sister make this cake, because she thought this was like not that greatly executed. So that was this very tame episode of Good Food. I hope that you guys like this recipe. Please try it. Again, I think the most important thing to keep in mind that these are just general guidelines. Everyone has different tastes, so use this as a canvas, start it off. You know, take this recipe, improve on it, send us photos at our socials that you can find below. And yeah, this was Good Food, episode 1 with your boy Luke and
Esther, sorry, I'm a special
that
feature.
you probably won't see again for a while. So cool, we'll see you guys next time.